Welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. This will be part 4 of our Apollo-style mission. For those of you who are just joining us, which should be practically nobody, I don't know why you'd start with part 4, but we are about to make our way back home. We have flown to the moon in a dual-style aircraft or spacecraft here. We have descended to the lunar surface, run a series of experiments, returned to our mothership orbiting the moon. We have gone down a second time, chosen an entirely different landing zone, run a set of experiments, have come back up, and we are now getting ready to return home. That said, we have decided our course here will be to set up a burn on roughly the opposite side of the moon that we are now. We'll burn prograde coming out like this, which will set us into a long swooping orbit, or technically it'll go like this around Kerbin. We want to set our periapsis at roughly 100 kilometers. We will then fall towards Kerbin. We'll run any gravioli scans we can along the way. At the periapsis, we will burn retrograde, both crafts still attached together, until our apoapsis falls to a new periapsis of roughly 100, maybe as low as 70, depends on how fuel goes. We will then refuel the landing craft one last time. We'll transfer our experiments, and Bob will descend to Kerbin's surface, while Jebediah and Bill make one more orbit, and then they too will descend right after Bob. We'll recover both craft and hopefully have an unprecedented amount of science under our belts with which to go and get some new fancy tech. So that's the plan, that's the goal, and that is what we will be executing here. So we'll want this maneuver to happen around here. That's 600. That's 1.4. 682. We don't want that one because that puts us awfully close back to the moon's clutches. I like that. That one looks good. Maybe a little bit more. Two looks good. Our craft looks good. After 19 hours, after 19 hours, Jebediah looks ready to go home. Bob and Bill, with the spinning of the ship, seem pretty panicked, actually. Not sure why they are quite so bummed out, but maybe they'll cheer up when they start seeing Kerbin show up in the windows. Where we have two craft here, we just want to make sure that our ancillary engine is shut down. This one is on. We are controlling from the proper side. And we will go ahead and get ready. One last trip around the moon in all of its splendor. Bill dancing now, I'm sure that he's going home. Jebediah a little restless. Bob enjoying a hell of a lot of quiet on the way home. Bob's landing site in the canyon. A terrifying ordeal. 10 minutes. 8 minutes. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. minutes. This will take us probably about 45 seconds, so we will go ahead and burn. I'm going to switch over to this view here, because this is kind of a pivotal maneuver if we want to get home safely. Now, of course, I could set up this maneuver so that we don't have to do a burn at the periapsis. We could set it up right now for a periapsis of 30 kilometers, but because we want to try to retrieve both craft, that's not the way we're going to do it. So here we are, looking good. The moon below us, and we bid our fond farewell at just about the 20-hour mark, 19.5. Up and away. A well-mapped surface there for sure, or at least we're well on our way to having a well-mapped surface. We're going to switch over to the map view again, just to make sure that we don't have any scary incidences of being recaptured by the moon, or crazy change in orbit, or a computer malfunction that says that we're really going to crash into the planet instead of be above it. Let's go ahead and try to grab any gravioli detections we can on our way back. I know we already have a lot of these, but we'll just keep grabbing them anyhow. I definitely have the Highlands. Just so that we have a timer to look at so we don't screw this up, we'll go ahead put this in. We want our apoapsis. Again, to become a new periapsis. $70 looks good. Highlands we've already grabbed on this round. Just about 2 hours. Grasslands again. Oh, 20 minutes, we fell a long way. Hard to see what we're over because of the darkness. Just get set up for this maneuver here. 859 meters per second is going to be a tall order, but we can definitely accomplish that. Eight minutes now. More grasslands. 5 minutes. Highlands. More water. Just over a day and an hour now. These missions normally take just about a day. 23 hours I think was what we were averaging. So that said, we've definitely saved some time, an entire day. Now of course in terms of the videos, it's taken 4 of them, so roughly 4 hours. I mean, of course, this won't be an hour video unless something insane happens, so I probably could have managed to tack it on at the end of the last video, but at the same time I was, real world stuff got in the way. Had to go to my other job because being a flight controller doesn't pay the bills. Bob very excited about this now. Oh, burned a little faster than I anticipated. It's alright though, because we wanted to flip around anyhow for jettisoning the LEM. And we'll just burn prograde, get this up to 70 so we don't fall into the atmosphere prematurely. Okay, now we're going to do a couple of last minute things before we send Bob out on his way. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that he has plenty of fuel. It's just the 1 tank. Bill very excited. You can practically see his house from here. Not that I think it will come up. Most of these are probably going to be empty, right? Yeah. Not that I think it'll come up, but we'll just add a little bit more monopropellant into here. Alright, Bob now, in an effort to just show us the biggest bang for our buck, is going to collect as many samples as he can. So, 2 things he could not store for duplication reasons. Nothing in any of those. And we didn't grab as many gravioli readings on the way back as I would have liked, but that's okay. Bob. Giving one last farewell to his friends here. Bob controlling from here, and without further ado, we shall prepare to land. We will undock. Make sure that Bob is indeed in the seat. SAS is on. Monopropellant on. Let's get out of the way. And Bob getting very used to this procedure here. This is his third time doing it on this mission. And we will begin our descent. Set ourselves up full retrograde. See our periapsis falling already. I would like to be greedy and, maybe land in some mountains or somewhere interesting, but honestly, with how much we've done this mission, I am not going to push anything. I just want a nice, successful landing. How about these green pastures here along the shoreline? That would be pretty nice. For this craft without legs, I don't think landing in the mountains would be the best idea. I don't think anything would go wrong, but I would hate for us to be deburning and smash into the side of a mountain or something. That would be very stupid. Used up most of our monopropellant now. Still at a hefty orbital speed of over 2,000. Haven't fired our engines yet though, so I'm not worried. I actually think I'm going to go shallower here. I think I'm going to aim for these shores. So I'm doing about 2,000. Give it just a little bit more. And I think that'll do it. I think that, if anything, that'll put me a little bit short, but that's okay. There we go. Bob, you are clear to return. Let's retract these panels as we drop below 70 kilometers. Technically within the atmosphere now. For those of you who watch often, you know that this is my preferred way to come in for a landing. I like that it brings up the warning, but it doesn't let you cancel what you're doing. You've already made that mistake, just so you know. You've made a mistake, is effectively what that warning amounts to. Oh, I didn't think to empty out our thermometers in case we come somewhere we haven't been. But it's too late for that now. As you can see, we're already slowing down, so it's not going to put us on the shoreline, it'll put us inland. Might be able to fire my thrusters and get us onto the opposite shoreline. We'll see how it goes. Passing over the mountains below us. Bob, smile on his face. He knows that all he has to do is survive one more landing. Fun fact, landings are the part of the mission that Kerbals hate most, because even though every launch hopefully comes with a landing, the landings tend to be the dangerous part in most space programs on the planet. And Bob sadly has had to deal with 2 rough landings already on this mission, although I must say, like a true gentleman and scholar, he was able to put the craft down twice on its legs instead of flopped over on its side, which is good because this craft really isn't designed like the other one to be able to right itself. It does have a small trick up its sleeve, and that's its roly-poly design, set up sort of like a weeble wobble. The way the goo canisters and monopropellant are shaped, if the rocket itself was on its side, you can decouple it and often get situated right side up. That was something I had tried to account for. Oh yeah, blew that landing by a lot, but that's okay. We're going for a splashdown. But yeah, so the ability to decouple and set up your ascent vertical instead of trying to launch off the ground like we've had to do in a few flights is definitely advantageous. Bob hitting some G's, nothing too extreme here. Already down to a measly 850 meters per second. Kilometers above the surface. Bob not looking confident. I'm confident, Bob. We've got this. Let's make sure our engine is on. Glad I thought of that as I was getting ready to burn off some excess speed. A full payload of fuel, never a good idea. Doesn't matter what orbital body you're going to. I mean, unless you plan on using that fuel to get back up. At 1 kilometer, we will do a full burst of the engines, and then we will open our chutes. We do not want to decouple. Half a tank of fuel left. Bob's still looking worried. Does not have the confidence in his skills that I have. Skills that he has proven time and again. Cut the engines at 35 meters per second. Deploy the parachutes. To slow us down just a little. Make sure nothing tragic happens in the final moments. Parachutes have opened. We will drift slowly into the water. Bob, big smile now. I don't know if I've done an EVA while flying over. He did a lot of bouncing there. I got worried he was going to plummet. What a terrible thing that would have been for him to fall at the very end to his death, 400 meters down to the surface. Bob making sure his helmet is secure. Nine units of fuel left, plenty of monopropellant left, tons of electrical charge. Everything looks good, Bob. It's a beautiful sunny day. He will never look up at the moon the same way again. Look at that smile. It's that slight smirk off to the side. Less than 200 meters to go until splash. Less than 100 meters now. Terribly exciting, I know, but I'm not going to risk physical warp. Not that it is terribly buggy. That's not the case. But it has done some weird things to me very occasionally. And with Bob's life on the line and all of our science stowed inside this little egg, I do not want to risk it. 10 meters. A beautiful splash. Fully upright. Just absolutely gorgeous, Bob. Nice job. Let's go ahead and bring that that is a gorgeous drop. Let's go ahead and bring that vessel home. $1,390 science for those flights. Keeping in mind we have a few more scientific experiments coming from... I didn't get a gravioli, that was stupid. But we have more scientific experiments, a couple anyhow, coming in from the orbiter. So let's just look here at the crew report from the canyons, EVA report from just above the moon's far side, east far side crater, gravity scan while in space high over the east far side crater, EVA report in space just above the moon's highlands, EVA report from space just above the moon's canyons, surface samples from the canyons, an EVA report from the canyons, surface sample from the east far side crater, EVA report from the east far side crater, crew report from the east far side crater, gravity scan from space just above the moon's east far side crater, gravity scan while in space high over the moon's southwest crater, gravity scan while in space high over Kerbin Shores, while in space high over the Midlands, gravity scan while in space high over the Midland craters, gravity scan while in space high over the moon's highlands, gravity scan while in space high over Kerbin's Badlands. That was an exciting one for us to get. Gravity scan while in space high over the Kerbin's highlands, gravity scan from the moon's east far side crater, seismic scan from the moon's east far side crater, gravity scan while in space high over Kerbin's grasslands, gravity scan from space just over the moon midlands, mystery goo observation from the canyons, mystery goo observations from the east far side crater, gravity scans from space just above the moon's east far side crater. That was a duplicate worth only 5. Gravity scan from space just above the moon's canyons, temperature scan from the moon's canyons, temperature scan from the moon's east far side crater, seismic scan from the moon's canyons, gravity scan from the moon's canyons, and recovery of a vessel returned from the surface of the moon, which sadly, that's 0 science. Wonderful. Just absolutely fantastic. And it's time to go ahead and bring the rest of our astronauts home. Bill and Jebediah, once again, alone in the capsule. Look at our resources here. We're not going to mess about. We're going to go ahead and try to bring them home close to our space center. Not right on top of it. We're not quite at the inclination for that. Plus it's on the dark side, so it's a little hard to see. But we'll call that a pretty good vicinity. Going to try to beat Bob home. Now this craft is of course heavy. Now these 3 parachutes may be able to handle the weight of everything, but our plan is to jettison the service module and come in with just our capsule. Let's go ahead and turn our lights off now. Let's go ahead and close our electrical panels. Forgot that I had the action group because it wasn't working with the LEM, and I have spent most of my mission dealing with the LEM. Bill and Jebediah. Bill, the rookie astronaut. Just above the highlands. I think I have like 4 of those, but the other ones might have been high above the highlands. I believe I have some desert coming my way though, which I'm going to want to grab. I mean, it's only 20 science, but I will take every bit I can. This is obviously going to be a much lower science count than what we just recovered. But if it weren't for this vessel, none of that would have been possible. Here we go. Wait for us to enter the atmosphere here. That's us crossing over. Coming in on the dark side. Always Always more eerie, a little more unsettling. We are a ways from daybreak, so we will not have any daylight to show us the way. Bill and Jeb both very excited to be heading home. Left Kerbin 1 day, 1 hour, and 47.5 minutes ago. This is expected to be absolutely routine, nothing we haven't done before, and uneventful really. But that said, we don't want to let our guard down, and we want to finish this mission out fully successful. And looking at the video time here, we're at 36 minutes, so we probably are going to be another 45-minute video. But that's alright. Falling relatively rapidly, 43 kilometers. One thing that these gentlemen are going to try for is Jebediah topped out, not Jebediah, I'm sorry. Bob topped out at G-forces right here. We're gonna aim to beat that. Jebediah, of course, is no stranger to G-forces, having pressed it off the scale with one landing. We're coming up into the thick of the atmosphere now. Smiles on both of our Kerbal knots. Something about fire puts them at ease. It's an odd culture, I must say. Very low on fuel for our Poodle engine here. Now, of course, those 78 units can pump out a lot of change in meters per second, probably about 200. However, in the atmosphere with this small amount of fuel left, it's not going to be nearly enough to do a powered descent. Not that that was in our plans at all, but just showing that our fuel threshold is one such that we would not have been able to do a third landing, and ensure that we could capture both pods. Now, it was very doable that we could have done like the real mission and transferred all of our scientific data into the main command module and let the LEM crash to its own, left it to its own devices to crash. And if that was the case, we could have saved a lot of fuel during that burn. And that will probably be a tactic that we will utilize when we do our Minmus mission, which this, of course, was a proof of concept of what I'm planning on doing on Minmus. My original plan was to try to do all of Minmus at once. Just want to keep a quick eye here while I'm talking. Was to try to do all of Minmus at once, but I had abandoned that idea when we missed the moon and were forced to land there prematurely. But I would still like to do a mission similar to this. Let's go ahead now, decouple. That service module served us well. Deploy our parachutes. Well lit up against the night sky. I was looking for the moon in the distance, but not visible yet. course, the cape where we launched from, located just over here. I heard explosions and I had thoughts of our last Apollo landing, so I was terrified. Looks like some of the debris actually survived. That'll be debris that we can go and clean up. Although the fact that it survived that impact is pretty impressive to me. A nice glow there. Mountains off in the distance. I believe I pointed mountains out on our ascent for this mission. There they are greeting us when we return. All around, actually. We appear to be landing in grasslands where we already have a plethora of data, but that's okay. The important thing is that we have arrived safely. 1 day and about 2 hours after takeoff. As I said, these missions normally run about 23 hours, so we tacked 3 hours on. We're able to hit a second site, and in terms of fuel for, I mean, those ascent rockets are enormous, and only to have to use one set to send us instead of two, very helpful. It's arguable how much extra fuel our version of the Saturn V launch vehicle is compared to our high-flying rocket, but that's semantics that I'm not going to worry about right now. Let's log seismic data for grasslands. We already have it. It's going to be worth half a science, but we're going to grab it anyhow. Gravity scan from the grasslands. We'll go ahead and grab that. Bill dancing, Jebediah happy that his trainee has survived, and we'll recover this vessel, and that will finally put an end to this incredibly long saga. 54 science, actually more than I was expecting. EVA report from just above Moon's east far side crater, worth 0 science. Gravity scan while in space high over the Moon's far side crater, 5.5, that's a duplicate. Gravity scan while in space high over Kerbin's Highlands, 1.8, a duplicate. Seismic scan from Kerbin's Grasslands, 0.5, a duplicate. Gravity scan from Kerbin's Grasslands, 6, that's a full. Gravity scan from space just above Kerbin's Highlands, 20, that's a full. Gravity scan from space just above Kerbin's Deserts, 20, that's a full. Recovery of a vessel from the orbit of the Moon. Oddly enough, a craft that has orbited the Moon is worth more science than a craft that has been on the Moon twice. Go figure. That will close us out of this video. 1661 science garnered, which means that we could get 3 of our biggins. These are 300 apiece, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. We could knock out 5 of these, which might actually be a way to go. Some of these things I don't care about, however. But that will be a series of decisions for our next video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been more entertaining for you than the string of missions we had of just going to the Moon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.